You're listening to the Broken Havoc podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Make sure to like and subscribe for more content, and as the frickin' referee would say, ring that damn bell for more notifications. What's up, everybody? It is Broken Havoc here, right here on the Broken Havoc podcast, here with episode 6 of News Shock, where we discuss the latest news and rumors of professional wrestling, that being WWE and AEW. And we got a lot of things to discuss right here on News Shock with what is Tony Khan's massive announcement. AJ Styles signs a new deal with WWE worth $3 million. Bobby Lashley's injury update. Pat McAfee comments on Cody Rhodes possibly joining the WWE. The Young Bucks trolling fans on the latest episode of BTE, and much, much more. We got a lot of things to discuss right here on News Shock. But before I get on with this episode of News Shock, make sure to like and subscribe to the Broken Havoc podcast on YouTube, where we discuss everything in and outside of the squared circle. Overall, there's a lot of news to cover. Not a lot of news compared to last week. Of course, last week, the big story was Cody Rhodes officially left AEW, and he is most likely on his way to World Wrestling Entertainment. Of course, Steve Austin is most likely going to be coming out of retirement to face Kevin Owens at WrestleMania 38 as well. When that story broke, everybody was hyped about it. But then when the Cody story dropped, basically everybody was just talking about Cody Rhodes. Nobody was talking about Stone Cold Steve Austin. But yeah, man, we got a lot of news to discuss right here on News Shock. Again, not a lot of news as last week, but I'm going to be going on with this episode quickly. But yeah, man, let's get on with News Shock this week. What is Tony Khan's massive announcement? Of course, last week, AEW did a really low rating. Dynamite did a really low rating, and I'll discuss that later on. But Tony Khan has a massive announcement. And Tony Khan announced Friday morning that he is working on something massive that he hopes to have done within the next week. And I quote by Tony Khan, "There will be a lot of news in the week ahead," end quote, Tony told Busted Open Radio. "I do not know if I will get it done by tonight, but stay tuned in the week ahead. Hopefully. I'm working on something pretty big. It would be massive. I don't know if it's what anybody would expect it is or think it is, but it would be a big deal in pro wrestling. I'm looking forward to hopefully make it happen. Stay tuned. Hopefully I will get it done and have more to announce soon." In an update, Dave Meltzer on the Wrestling Observer reports, he states that Khan was in meetings all day yesterday trying to put together the quote-unquote massive deal. Meltzer didn't provide any further details on what the deal could entail. Several fans on social media are speculating that Khan's announcement is not related to a talent signing, but potentially AEW teaming up with another promotion for a super show. Last year, the IWGP World Heavyweight Champion Kazuchika Okada floated the possibility of a supercard featuring talents from New Japan and other promotions. And this is a quote right here. "When the world calms down, I would like to give back with other wrestling companies to all wrestling fans in the world who still support us even in this current situation," Okada told Sports Illustrated. New Japan, WWE, AEW, CMLL, AAA, all together sounds pretty cool, don't you think? I want to show how powerful professional wrestling is," Okada added. "I want to cheer everyone up with that power." Stay tuned for updates on Tony Khan's massive announcement. That was I was reading this from Wrestling Inc. Of course, Tony Khan does have this massive announcement. I don't know, it's kind of weird. I noticed a trend. It's like every time when AEW does a low rating, Tony Khan tends to have a big announcement. And Tony Khan, I feel like, when it comes to big announcements, it was a situation where he would fall flat or just rise high. If you guys do not remember last year, around this time last year, of course, he was hyping a big signing, and it ended up being Christian Cage. Nothing against Christian Cage, but Tony Khan basically came off like a big mark when he hyped up Christian Cage. And there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, Tony Khan, at the end of the day, is a fan of pro wrestling. But at the same time, you're running a business and you're hyping up a guy like Christian Cage. Nothing against Christian Cage, but he's not on the level of a CM Punk or a Bryan Danielson. Now, granted, they did sign those guys later on in the year, but still. But I will say this, Tony Khan has learned his lessons when it comes to big announcements. I do not believe, now, what I believe is that is possibly going to be the case. There are many different scenarios here. One scenario, yes, it could be a super show with AEW, New Japan, and Impact Wrestling. I know a lot of things right now are going on in Impact Wrestling. I do not watch Impact Wrestling. I'm actually planning on watching Impact Wrestling. I do not know when, but there's a lot of things going on right now, of course. Matt Cardona is running things on Impact Wrestling. Not running things on Impact Wrestling. He's not the world champion. I believe he's the digital media champion, but he is the NWA world champion, of course. There's a huge Bullet Club angle going on Impact Wrestling right now. Some people are saying, and I mentioned Bill and Doug, not Bill and Doug, but Live Rounds with Steven Jensen and Doug. They were talking about Tony Khan's massive announcement, and Doug put up a good point. Maybe it's a situation on which, AEW possibly bought the rights to the Bullet Club. I mean, that is not a bad idea to do, but we'll have to wait and see. Not only that, well, I believe the massive thing is going to be, I do not know if this is going to be the case, but I think it's going to be a deal with HBO Max when it comes to AEW, because I feel like this particular announcement, Tony Khan did state it was massive. I do not see it as a signing. That is just my view on things. I do not see it as a signing whatsoever. I mean, I feel like Tony Khan, nothing wrong with signing there's nothing wrong with signing talent, but I think Tony Khan has put himself into a corner in which he is signing a little bit too much talent, and I feel like you have to start managing. I mean, Tony Khan is rich as hell, but at the same time, I feel like the problem with signing a lot of guys is you only have 3 hours of television a week, and I'm excluding Dark and Dark Elevation. I'm talking about the main shows. You only have 3 hours of television a week on both TBS and TNT, and there's only very few talents that you can use. I mean, you can't use everybody. Now, there's good and bad that comes with it. The good thing is, you don't overexpose everybody. But the bad thing is that, you're going to run yourself into a corner where you're going to start, you got to start picking and choosing who you are going to use on television. For example, Andrade, when they first brought him in, it was a big deal, but then it kind of went downhill after that. Now he's in a much better role, most likely competing for the TNT Championship. But before that, Andrade wasn't really doing anything, to be quite honest with you. Malachi Black, another one, of course, Malachi Black had that huge feud with Cody Rhodes, but then after that, he had a feud with, I believe, Brian Pillman Jr. and all that stuff. But really, there was a lot of the signings that, Tony Khan has done that really, kind of, you sign one guy and, the other guy that you sign kind of falls back for a while, and then you're focused on this guy. Tony Khan really needs to really slow down a little bit of the signing. I think you can't sign everybody. I think that is the case. AEW cannot get everybody. And there's always this notion of, whenever a guy leaves WWE, the grass is greener on AEW. And that is 100% true. The grass is most likely greener on AEW. But again, I'm connecting this with the Cody story. Maybe Cody Rhodes is wanting to prove maybe, the grass can be greener in the WWE. But we'll have to wait and see. But I believe it's either a super show or possibly a streaming deal. I don't think AEW is eligible to create their own streaming service. I think that'd be a death sentence for them, in my opinion. I think the best thing for them is to have a deal with HBO Max. The reason why I say it's best for them to have a deal with HBO Max is because of the fact that, number one, the WWE has a deal with Peacock in which they air their pay-per-views on there. And AEW only has 4 pay-per-views per year. Not only that, I feel like, AEW is only a company that is over 2 years old, almost 3 years old. I think they're 3 years old. Correct me if I'm wrong. But they got a lot of content that they put out, their dark elevation. It can be another situation in which they can start doing the whole documentary game. Maybe they can start making documentaries if they go on HBO Max. Literally, I believe an HBO Max deal for AEW is the best thing for the company. And I always had this proposition of, when the whole Impact and AEW thing started last year, when Kenny won the title, or 2 years ago in December of 2020 when Kenny won the title, and of course this whole Impact Wrestling Forbidden Door thing started. Of course, we all heard those rumors of Tony Khan possibly buying Impact Wrestling. And on Twitter a couple of months ago, like last year, I stated in a tweet that, it's not a bad thing for Tony Khan to buy Impact Wrestling. This is why I say that. The reason why I say that is because of the fact that, when it comes to Impact Wrestling, you got to realize the history that Impact Wrestling has. I mean, it's literally in its 20th anniversary this year. The company started in June 19th of 2002 with Jeff Jarrett and his father, Jerry Jarrett. I mean, there's a lot of memorable moments in the early years of TNA that you can literally get. And if Tony Khan would buy, I'm not saying this is going to be the case, I would advocate for it because I think he would keep it alive, in my opinion. If WWE had bought Impact, they would have probably killed it off. I think, if Tony Khan had bought Impact Wrestling, I think he would most likely probably would have kept it alive. But at the same time, you also got the library, the tape library, which is worth which has over 20 years of footage, almost 20 years of footage. I mean, it is not a bad deal in my opinion. And, if you had a streaming deal with HBO Max, you could put all the Impact stuff there as well. But that's just me making assumptions. I think it's a streaming deal. It may not be the case, but I feel like a deal with HBO Max is definitely good and beneficial for AEW, and it will make them more money in the long run. I mean, if people are telling you that AEW is not making money now, they're completely lying to you. 100% AEW is making money right now, and if they did strike a deal, because keep in mind, HBO Max is a property of Warner Media. That is Warner Media's official streaming service. Currently, AEW airs their pay-per-views on BR Live, which you sign into BR Live and then you pay an extra $50 for the show. And then, internationally, it's on Fight TV. I think with HBO Max, it's best to put the pay-per-views on HBO Max, and it's a bigger deal because you're reaching to a larger audience as well. But that is me. I believe it's a streaming deal. I don't think it's going to be a signing because of the fact that I just do believe that Tony Khan, I think, needs to slow down with the signings a little bit. Yes, I love the fact that Keith Lee's in AEW, and he's going to be 100% successful in AEW. I just believe that, Tony Khan needs to slow down with the signing. You're signing a lot of guys, and, it's going to cause a scenario in which you're going to have to use one person and just not use the other. That's my view. Tony Khan really needs to, I think they're trying to do that, and they're trying to figure it out. They're trying to balance everything out. I think that's the case. But yeah, in our next story, AJ Styles reportedly signs a new WWE deal worth $3 million per year. Fightful confirmed on Tuesday that AJ Styles has signed a new multi-year deal contract with the WWE. Fightful's report stated that they were told that Styles' new deal is for well over $3 million a year, with Styles also having some additional bus travel accommodations paid for. Styles has had signed a contract extension with the WWE in 2019. Fightful noted that his deal was set to expire in this spring or summer. At last Saturday's Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, Styles was one of the participants in the WWE Championship Elimination Chamber match. Brock Lesnar won the match to become the new WWE Champion. WrestleMania 38 plans for Styles have yet to be revealed, but on last night's episode of Raw, Styles was one of multiple wrestlers teased for a match against Edge at WrestleMania. Edge issued an open challenge for WrestleMania last night and mentioned the word phenomenal during his promo. After a decorated career with TNA/Impact Wrestling and New Japan, Styles debuted for the WWE in 2016, and he is a two-time WWE World Champion. Styles has re-signed with the WWE. I'm happy for him, man. I mean, AJ Styles, $3 million a year, the guy fucking deserves it. If you think otherwise, you're just a complete mark. I think AJ Styles 100% deserves this. The guy has busted his ass for his whole career. Spending 11 years in TNA, putting the company on his back, betting on himself, leaving the company, going to New Japan, and, of course, being the leader of Bullet Club for a short period of time, having a good run for himself in New Japan, and then coming to the WWE and making a really good career for himself in the WWE, of course. He signed in January of 2016, and by September of that same year, he became the WWE champion, beating Dean Ambrose at Backlash 2016, which was an awesome moment. But yeah, AJ Styles signs a new multi-year contract with the WWE. Good for him, man. I'm happy for him. I think AJ Styles deserves the money that he is getting because of the fact that AJ has worked so hard up to this point, and he's still working his ass off to this point. And he's used pretty well on television, in my opinion. I genuinely believe so. Would I have loved to see AJ Styles in the WWE? In AEW? Yeah, I would. I think it would be awesome for him. But I think AJ Styles right now, I think really his sole goal was to go to the WWE. And literally, I will say this, I'm happy for AJ Styles. And, when it comes to guys like AJ Styles is definitely a family man. He cares a lot about his family. And at the end of the day, he wants to provide for his family, and he's making $3 million a year. I mean, what is the problem with that? 100% AJ Styles is doing the best for his family, and I'm totally happy for AJ. You know, good for AJ for re-signing with the company. As much as I would have loved to see him with AEW, I totally understand this point. You know, we've seen it with guys like Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, and I think, you know, it's gonna at the end of the day end off pretty well for them. And AJ Styles is no exception. I think AJ Styles is good where he is at, and I think, you know, 100%. I see him having another WWE Championship run. That's just what I see. But again, I'm happy for Styles. I'm glad that he resigned, and he's making the money that he deserves. AJ Styles 100% deserves it. All right, we get an injury update on Bobby Lashley. After getting removed from Saturday's Elimination Chamber match for the WWE Championship due to a storyline injury, Bobby Lashley reportedly got a legitimate injury checked out. According to PW Insider, Lashley was at Andrew Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center in Birmingham, Alabama on Monday to get his shoulder examined. Lashley was set to defend the WWE title against Brock Lesnar, AJ Styles, Seth Rollins, Austin Theory, and Riddle at the Elimination Chamber, but he never entered the match. Rollins then powerbombed Theory through Lashley's pod, and the announcers said that he was unable to compete due to being placed in concussion protocol. WWE continued that storyline on Raw, saying that if Lashley is not out of concussion protocol, someone else will challenge Lesnar for the WWE Championship at the March 5th live event at Madison Square Garden in New York City. Shortly after WWE ran the injury angle with Lashley at the Elimination Chamber, the Ringer Wrestling Show said that Lashley had been dealing with a shoulder injury since the Royal Rumble. Kazim Famuyide, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, please. He added that Lashley was expected to need surgery, which would keep him out of action for at least 4 months. The fact that WWE isn't officially ruling Lashley out for the MSG show or WrestleMania 38 suggests that there is still a chance that he could be available. If Lashley was able to work for WrestleMania at the start of April, Rollins seems to be a logical opponent since he was essentially the one responsible for Lashley losing the WWE title. So yeah, man. I was talking about this on my Elimination Chamber review when it came to Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley, I believe, you know, I feel like there were definitely plans for Bobby Lashley for WrestleMania. I thought, you know, I stated in my Elimination Chamber review that I thought it was a stupid idea the way they eliminated Bobby Lashley. I understood it, but at the same time, I hated it. I hated it because of the fact that, you know, Bobby Lashley basically never got a chance to wrestle in the match, and that was, in my opinion, a dumb booking decision. But at the same time, I definitely did understood it because it definitely plays in the storyline element. Because I believed, and a lot of other people believed, that Lesnar was going to be defending the title at Night 1 at WrestleMania, but that is most likely not going to be the case. Of course, 2 nights ago on Monday Night Raw, Paul Heyman did state that Brock Lesnar is supposed to defend the title March 5th inside Madison Square Garden, which is a house show, which is very rare for WWE to mention a house show. They would do it a few times. I remember that the last time they did it was back in 2017 when AJ Styles won the U.S. title at a house show. But, you know, the main reason why they're mentioning the house show, the March 5th house show at MSG, is because of the fact that the MSG show is struggling right now to sell tickets. So they really want to sell tickets. And now they're putting it on they're not putting it on television, but they're mentioning it on television. That is the reason why they're trying to make this MSG show a big deal. I think it's another factor in the fact that, you know, WWE has been taken, you know, AEW definitely outsold WWE in the New York market, in my opinion. Not only because of Grand Slam, but also because of Long Island. If you guys do not remember, AEW sold tickets much more faster than the WWE at the new UBS Arena. Of course, that AEW Dynamite at the UBS Arena was where MJF got that huge standing ovation, and CM Punk actually got booed out of the building. So MJF was actually the babyface on that show. But yeah, man, Bobby Lashley, hopefully he recovers because, you know, it sucks to see a wrestler that, you know, a wrestler get injured. And, you know, I think there were definitely plans for Bobby Lashley. We don't know what the hell is going to be the case. I think right now the WWE is 100% is focusing themselves on their main event being Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar for both the WWE and Universal titles. 100%. I see Roman Reigns winning the match. I think it makes total sense because it reaches Roman Reigns into God status, but at the same time, you run yourself into a corner of, okay, now we got Roman Reigns as like an unstoppable killer. We need somebody. And this is key right now. WWE needs a guy to step up to Roman Reigns. They need a babyface that can get that mainstream attention. Not only that, a babyface that can literally be at the level of Roman Reigns, because right now the WWE has absolutely nobody to challenge Roman Reigns. Absolutely nobody. And if they don't find, if they don't find a guy at the level of Roman Reigns now, I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what the hell they're going to do. They need to find somebody at the level of Roman Reigns this year. This is their last shot, man. They need to find somebody. And, they can't always rely on guys like Brock Lesnar, because as much, and I'm glad of the fact that, the WWE has, kind of in a way reinvented Brock Lesnar. I love the current work that Brock Lesnar is doing. But at the same time, this whole feud with Brock Lesnar, has been going on for a long period of time now. Again, WWE needs to find somebody at the level of a Roman Reigns to, to literally, not only step up to Roman Reigns, but at the same time have that star power. And WWE does not have that because of the fact that they refuse to build new stars. That is just me. But hopefully Bobby Lashley is going to return. I don't think I think he's out of WrestleMania. I think 100% he's out of WrestleMania. But, yeah. Bryan Danielson says that AEW isn't perfect the way he wanted it to be. So this caused a lot of rough on social media. And Danielson was talking about this. And, a lot of people are saying they're getting worked. And I completely agree. People are getting worked. So Danielson stated, and I quote, "These kids today need to learn how to properly wrestle. That's my deal. AEW is great. It's not perfect in the way I would like it to be, and I'm sure in the way John would like it to be. There is a little bit too much fooling around. John and I, we don't wrestle the same style, but we wrestle with the same seriousness. That is what I think we bring to the table, and teaching that to a younger generation. Someone like Sammy Guevara, the big thing is that he has this vlog, which I don't even understand what a vlog is. It sounds like something to do with poop. He tried to get me on his vlog, and I'm like, okay, whatever, man. But he focuses so much on his vlog and all his other stuff, as opposed to beating the crap out of somebody, which me and John do quite well. I'd like to think that John is more of a brutalist style of violence, while I'm more like a poet, luxuriate style of violence. It's equivalent. He's using words that I don't even use, man. But yeah, man, a lot of people on social media, this caused a discussion on social media, and I wanted to mention this because of the fact that everybody thinks that this is like 100% real, that Bryan is like, not liking AEW and all that stuff. You do realize when he's mentioning somebody like Sammy Guevara, he doesn't mean that in real life. I think 100% Bryan Danielson is in character here. This is definitely connecting to the promos that he has been cutting with Jon Moxley for the past couple of weeks on Dynamite. So the fact that people are saying that, oh my God, the cracks are showing when it comes to Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson does not like it in AEW. You're being worked. This whole statement by Bryan Danielson, he's completely 100% in character. Now, is AEW perfect? No, they're not. They sometimes make stupid decisions, just like every other promotion does. But at the same time, I do believe that, 100% this is definitely, Bryan Danielson in character, simply because of the fact that he has mentioned this on television as well. And this is the character of Bryan Danielson. So everybody, chill out on social media, please. All right. Pat McAfee drags Cody Rhodes for starting a terrible pro wrestling company. This was a report by Ringside News that I really want to talk about, because of the fact that I think the title, in my opinion, nothing against Ringside News like crazy. Sometimes they are a little unprofessional, in my opinion. But most of the time, they get stuff right. Pat McAfee, did not drag Cody Rhodes. I think the title is misleading. On the Pat McAfee show, he talked about Cody Rhodes. And this is what he stated, and I quote, "I guess Cody Rhodes is coming to WWE. I guess. Who cares? Him and his little friends started something. It was terrible. We actually went head-to-head with them on Wednesdays. We beat them a couple of different times. Who cares? The hell with Cody Rhodes." And then Pat McAfee says, if he's coming to SmackDown, I'm excited about it. So, literally, this whole first, few sentences that I stated was completely a joke by Pat McAfee. So the fact that a lot of news reports are stating that Pat McAfee drags Cody Rhodes is 100% misleading. Don't believe instantly the headlines that you see, because I'm stating this because of the fact that I'm just telling the truth right now. Pat McAfee did not drag Cody Rhodes for starting a terrible wrestling company. He was joking about that. He was saying that in a jokingly manner. I am stating that what he stated right here, he said it 100% as a joke, and he wants him to be on the commentary team on SmackDown. So, yeah, I mean, definitely. I just wanted to mention that. In other news, oh my God, I completely messed this up. Crap. Damn, that's kind of messed up. The fact that I messed this up while I'm filming. Oh my God, this thing, man. Let me just fix it real quick. I apologize, everybody. There we go. All right. Now, in other news, CM Punk is to be inducted into the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame. Now, this is not the first, but there's a lot of Ring of Honor Hall of Fame inductions. Of course, CM Punk is one of them. Of course, CM Punk was one of the top guys in the early days of Ring of Honor as well. Bryan Danielson is also going to be inducted. So yeah, man, overall, I think it's a great thing for CM Punk to be inducted in the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame. I think it's really good. Not only that, I mean, you have guys like Bryan Danielson. The Briscoes are going to be inducted as well. I mean, the Briscoes, I've not seen a lot of the work of the Briscoes, but 100%, I mean, the Briscoes definitely, played a big part in the history of Ring of Honor. Bryan Danielson is going to be inducted as well. Not only that, who else is going to be inducted? I think the Young Bucks are going to be inducted. Correct me if I'm wrong, but CM Punk is to be inducted into the Ring of Honor Hall of Fame, and overall, that's great for CM Punk. The Undertaker is to be inducted into the 2021 WWE Hall of Fame as well. Overall, this was definitely 100% the most logical choice for the Hall of Fame this year. Undertaker is one of the greatest wrestlers in the history of this business, and if you deny that, I do not know what to tell you. I think you should stop watching wrestling if you completely deny the Undertaker, because to be quite honest with you, the Undertaker is by far the greatest wrestler in the history of wrestling, period. I mean, in my opinion, the Undertaker, like, he has the greatest gimmick in the history of wrestling, and nobody can duplicate what the Undertaker can do. I mean, that's just the cold hard facts. Like, one of my favorite matches of the Undertaker was his matches with Triple H at WrestleMania, of course. 27 and especially 28, end of an era. I 100% enjoyed that match, of course. His matches with Shawn Michaels are absolutely legendary, of course, at WrestleMania 25 and at WrestleMania 26. And I mean, his entire streak in general. Like, I enjoyed his match with Orton, his whole feud with Randy Orton. Like, Undertaker has had a lot of feuds. And not only that, I mean, Undertaker, when you think of the WWE, you think of guys like the Undertaker. And overall, my thoughts of the Undertaker going to the Hall of Fame, he deserves it. Now, one thing I want to say about the WWE Hall of Fame is the fact that I hate the fact that it's taped after SmackDown. Now, a lot of people are saying that the Hall of Fame is going to be a one-man induction, and if that's the case, okay, I get it. But at the same time, I hate the fact that the Hall of Fame is going to be taped after a normal episode of SmackDown, or in this case, a go-home episode before WrestleMania for SmackDown. I think, the Hall of Fame should be on its own separate night. I don't think it should be after a wrestling show, in my opinion. I think it goes to show you what WWE really thinks of the Hall of Fame. That's just my opinion. Last year, they didn't give no two craps about the Hall of Fame whatsoever. I thought last year, like, the class of the Hall of Fame was awesome last year. But, I mean, the way that they went about it, like, the inductions went so quick, and it just sucked, in my opinion. That was just me. And that has nothing to do with the inductions. It has to do with the way they formatted the show. They completely rushed the entire Hall of Fame last year. Most likely they're not going to do that, but I hope they don't do that. Another thing, the Young Bucks troll fans about Cody Rhodes on the recent edition of BTE. If you guys haven't watched it, check it out. The link will be in the description below, but it's actually pretty funny. The Young Bucks are being your typical Young Bucks, so that's actually pretty funny. I'm going by quick because Dynamite actually starts in 10 minutes. After that, we got Drake Maverick returns to the WWE as part of the creative team. Drake Maverick has reportedly returned for a third stint with the WWE, but this time it's in a different role. According to PW Insider, Maverick went back to WWE for 3 or 4 weeks ago and took a position on the Raw creative team. The 39-year-old Brit first rose to prominence as a wrestler in Impact Wrestling before signing with WWE. Of course, he was known as Rockstar Spud. Maverick then debuted as a general manager for 205 Live and became a jack of all trades over time. He had a short stint managing AOP and eventually became a key part of the 24/7 championship division, holding the title 8 times. WWE released Maverick from his contract in April of 2020. Of course, that was known as Black Wednesday. He was one of a lot of wrestlers released during Black Wednesday a couple of years ago. But he still competed in the tournament for the Cruiserweight Championship. He was so well received that WWE decided to bring him back. Maverick then competed in the Cruiserweight division and teamed with Killian Dane on NXT before getting cut again in November of 2021. Since Maverick has long been viewed as someone with a good mind and passion for the business, creative writing can turn out to be one of his best positions yet. Maverick's return comes at an important time on the WWE calendar as WrestleMania 30 is just over a month away, making every weekly episode of television important. Overall, good for Rockstar Spud, or Drake Maverick, I should say. A lot of people were kind of questioning this move. I'm like, why would you return to the company that fired you twice? I definitely see that, but if this is best for Drake Maverick, then I do not see any problem with it. But at the same time, I mean, like, WWE has created this environment behind the scenes where really nobody is safe. You can be a wrestler, you can be an office person. Like, you literally, once the next round of cuts come in, I mean, nobody's going to be saved, man. Like, literally anybody at this point can be released. Ask Shane McMahon. Shane McMahon got fired, of all people. But, if Maverick thinks this is the right decision for him, then good on him. I mean, I'm not mad about it. I don't think this is going to be, like, he is part of the creative team. I think he does, have a good mind. We'll have to wait and see. But, I will say, man, there are some aspects of Raw that I have enjoyed. Now, granted, I don't think that's all with Drake, because of Drake Maverick. But I will say some aspects on Raw I do enjoy. There are still other aspects of Raw that I just do not like whatsoever. I think, SmackDown has taken the mantle of the worst wrestling show of the year. Last year was Raw. Raw was arguably the worst show ever. But I feel like Raw got a little bit better. When it comes to SmackDown has gotten way worse. But Drake Maverick is returned to the WWE as a part of the creative team. So let's talk about ratings. So ratings for last week. I'm going to be talking ratings last week. I'm not going to talk about the recent Raw ratings this week. This week's Raw, or I shouldn't say this week's Raw. Last week's Raw drew 1.602 million viewers, which is up which is up from the previous week's 1.387 million viewers from last week. The 18 to 49 demo saw the average rating to be a 0.44, up from the 0.36 rating the previous week. I did not watch Raw. It was the go-home show before the Elimination Chamber on the Raw side of things. I actually missed Raw that day. I did not care what the hell happened on the show. But, I mean, Raw, it did a much better rating than it did the previous week. It definitely, from the first week that they were on Sci-Fi, because they did 1.3 on Sci-Fi, and then, the next week when they were still on Sci-Fi, they drew a 1.6. So, I mean, good for them. I did not watch Raw the previous week, but that's that. AEW Dynamite drew their lowest rating on TBS. The show averaged 869,000 viewers and drew a 0.31 in the key 18 to 49 demographic, which is not good for AEW. Of course, the previous week before this, they drew a 1.1. Of course, that was the fantastic Atlantic City show for AEW Dynamite. I thought, overall, the last week's Dynamite was a really good show. Was it better than the Atlantic City show? No, it wasn't. But it was nowhere near a horrible show. It was actually a pretty good show, in my opinion. I definitely enjoyed what I watched last week on Dynamite, and I'm actually really shocked that the Dynamite numbers went completely down. I mean, this is not a good rating for AEW Dynamite whatsoever. SmackDown ratings, they averaged a 2.173, and this is down 2.6% from the previous week. It's the second lowest audience for SmackDown so far in 2022. In the 18 to 49 demographic, SmackDown drew a 0.54 rating, which is down 1.8% from the previous week. Of course, SmackDown was a taped show. It was not a good tape show, in my opinion. I did not enjoy the show whatsoever. But since the show is on Fox, of course, you expect the show to be like that, to draw that high of a rating. Granted, it's low compared to what they would do in other weeks, but 2.1 nowadays is not considered absolutely terrible. And not only that, SmackDown is on Fox, so they're always going to reach that 2 million viewer mark. AEW Rampage drew their lowest viewership on TNT, which is not good as well. Not a good week ratings-wise for AEW. And this is coming from somebody that loves and watches AEW every week. AEW Slam Dunk, of course, drew 471,000 viewers on TNT, according to Show Buzz Daily. This is down 14.20% from the previous week's taped episode, which drew 549,000 viewers. Friday's Rampage had a special start time of 7 p.m. Eastern, a change from the usual 10 p.m. start time because of the fact that TNT did have the NBA All-Star Game. Overall, I thought Rampage was a pretty good show. I'm really disappointed in this number. Rampage is a show that I really enjoy every week, and 100% it has gotten so much better in these past couple of months. But yeah, man, this number is not good whatsoever. And I definitely expected Rampage to do a better number, because of the fact that they did get preempted to a 7 p.m. time slot. Usually, one of the reasons why a lot of people say the reason why the AEW Rampage numbers are low is because of the fact that it's on a 10 p.m. time slot, which is not a good time slot whatsoever. But 7 p.m., I definitely expected the number to go up. I'm actually really disappointed because of the fact that, they drew 471,000, their lowest number so far. That is not good whatsoever. Absolutely, that is not good whatsoever. But hopefully AEW Rampage, gets back up in the ratings. Definitely, I feel like, I think they'll try to do something with Rampage. But, Rampage is not a bad show. It's not a bad show whatsoever. But, that number is just not good whatsoever. It was not a good week ratings-wise for AEW. But yeah, that was News Shock for this week. Overall, there was a lot of news stories. Not a lot compared to last week, but there was still a lot of news stories. Overall, we definitely got, some news stories I talked about. Of course, Tony Khan's massive quote-unquote announcement. What I thought it was going to be, which is probably a streaming deal. I may be 100% wrong with that, but who knows? But yeah, man, we got a lot of news stories that we talked about right here on News Shock, and I will be coming back to you guys with News Shock next week in the normal day of Monday, most likely. I have, for the past 2 weeks, or last week I should say, I've been uploading News Shock on a Wednesday, which makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. But I'm going to be coming back with Old School Showcase most likely this week as well, because I haven't been uploading Old School Showcase for the past 2 weeks. So I will be coming back to you guys with Old School Showcase. But in the meantime, check out my AEW Dynamite review tomorrow right here on the Broken Havoc podcast. But yeah, please like, subscribe, comment down below, push that bell for notifications, and be on the lookout for more videos right here on the Broken Havoc podcast. And this is Broken Havoc, signing out.